Was this what Vimy might have been, what Messines should have been, what Cambrai could have been? Field Marshal Haig wrote,
"The situation has developed more favorably for us than I, optimist though I am, had dared to hope."
Ludendorff wrote,
August the 8th was the black day of the German army in the history of this war. This was the worst experience that I had to go through.
The Battle of Amiens was a new beginning, the glint of a new hope. The advance slowed, but the feel of a great occasion did not diminish. German resistance stiffened as usual, and each mile gained brought the British nearer to the old, devastated Somme battlefields of 1916, a dreadful wilderness to fight in. But Amiens, on August the 8th, struck such a blow at German morale as it had never sustained before. As the German support divisions moved up, they met men who shouted to them,
"You want to prolong the war? If the enemy were only over the Rhine, the war would be over."
We thought we'd set the thing going. Now you fools are corking up the hole again.
Ludendorff was appalled at the reports which reached him.
Everything I had feared had here, in one place, become a reality. Our war machine was no longer efficient. The 8th of August put the decline of our fighting power beyond all doubt. The war must be ended.
More slowly now, but steadily, the Allies pressed forward. On August the 11th, there was a meeting of the German Supreme Command. Ludendorff offered his resignation, but it was not accepted. The truth, however, could not be disguised. The Kaiser told his generals,
"I see that we must strike a balance. We have nearly reached the limit of our powers of endurance. The war must be ended."
The war must be ended. At last, the realization came home. At last, the leaders of the German army, the mightiest instrument of power that the world had seen, knew that they could not win. The London Times wrote,
"The new Franco-British offensive initiated under the command of Sir Douglas Haig is one of the most gratifying surprises of the war. It surprised the British public just as much as the enemy, for never has a secret been better kept."
Daunted by the collapse of so many false hopes in years past, the British public only hesitatingly comprehended what its army had achieved. In Germany, and among her weakened and wearied allies, realization came more swiftly. A Vienna paper wrote,
"The German retreat on the Marne concerns us just as much as if our own troops had been fighting there. And the beating hearts with which we follow the news of the battle at Amiens are inspired by our comprehension of the extent to which our destiny is interwoven with these events."
Austria needed peace, Bulgaria needed peace, Turkey needed peace. Now Germany was learning that she too needed peace. But what sort of peace? The voice of the Junker insisted,
I should like to say to our people, do not lose your nerves. Do not become sentimental. Show a hard face to your enemies and say plainly to them that you need this and need that, and therefore will keep that much of what you have taken from them, because you are the conquerors.
Germany began to learn that there could be no negotiating of peace, no compromise accommodation. The righteous wrath of the American people, embodied in President Wilson, the determination of Britain, passionately asserted by Lloyd George, would not contemplate such a thing. And Clemenceau had spoken for France.
I, gentlemen, I wage war. In domestic policies I wage war. In foreign policies I wage war. Always, everywhere, I wage war. And I shall continue to wage war until the last quarter of an hour.
How long, O Lord, how long before the flood of crimson welling carnage shall abate? From sodden plains in west and east, the blood of kindly men streams up in mists of hate, polluting thy clean air. And nations great in reputation of the arts that bind the world with hopes of heaven sink to the state of brute barbarians, whose ferocious mind gloats o'er the bloody havoc of their kind, not knowing love or mercy. Lord, how long shall Satan in high places lead the blind to battle for the passions of the strong?
Peace was still a distant vision in August 1918. In the mood of all the warring nations, there was still a steep outstanding debt to be paid in blood and destruction. The fight went on. Marshal Foch, he became a Marshal of France on August the 6th, widened the battlefront southward, drawing in new French armies. Now Haig widened the British front of attack also. On August the 21st, his Third Army opened the Battle of Bapaume. Bapaume fell to the New Zealanders on August the 30th. In this battle, the British captured 34,000 men and 270 guns. Before it ended, Haig flung in his First Army, attacking still further to the north, along the River Scarpe. Their fight produced 16,000 prisoners and 200 guns. And so into September, and yet another battle by the Fourth and Third Armies. 12,000 prisoners and 100 guns. It was a majestic progress at last, after long years of waiting and enduring. But the cost was high for men who had fought so long. At home, the British people began to have the sense of victory. One by one, the headlines stilled their doubts.
August the 23rd, new British advance.
August the 24th, British front ablaze.
August the 26th, pressing the advance.
August 27th, battle front spreading.
August the 28th, Allies sweep forward.
August the 30th, the flowing tide.
The Times commented,
The arrival of our forces at Bapaume set the seal on a wonderful weekend and brought into view possibilities which were certainly not in sight a week ago. The Germans are retreating at such a pace that people are beginning to ask whether they'll be able to stand on the old Hindenburg line.
the sense of victory gripped the Allied commanders. Haig told his generals,
Risks which a month ago would have been criminal to incur ought now to be incurred as a duty.
Yet there remained between the Allies and the growing vision of victory a great and formidable obstacle, the Hindenburg Line. Here the German soldiers, dispirited, tired, gravely weakened in numbers, might be expected to make a stand and display again that stubborn courage in adversity which had sustained them so often before. As September drew to an end, it became clear that only the whole strength of the Allies on the Western Front could guarantee Germany's overthrow. Marshal Foch coined a slogan, Tout le monde à la bataille. Everyone go to it. Now the Americans joined in, fighting as an army in their own right. Already on September the 12th, they had cleared the Saint-Mihiel salient near the famous fortress of Verdun, taking 15,000 prisoners and 450 guns. It was a fine achievement in their first great offensive. But now, for the massed blow of the whole alliance, the direction of the American effort had to be changed. By a tremendous feat of organization and administration, the ever-expanding American army was shifted to the Argonne to strike northward, while the French and British marched east. And in the north, the Belgian army also would attack, beside the British Second Army, fighting under the orders of King Albert of the Belgians. By September the 26th, all was ready. French and Americans struck hard. Then the haste with which the attack had been mounted told against them. The Americans suffered heavy casualties. These they could have borne in the enthusiasm that impelled them. But on this desolate ground, their transport broke down. Supplies could not be got to the troops in action. The wounded could not be removed. The American onslaught slowed and stopped. It didn't matter. On September the 27th, the British 3rd and 1st Armies struck at the Hindenburg Line itself and made a breach 12 miles wide and 6 miles deep.
When we got to the wire there, it was terrific. It was about 4 foot high, and I would say about 15 yards wide. But the tanks who'd gone in front of us, they had plowed through it like a ship in the sea, and we had no difficulty at all in walking in their tracks through the wire. We also got over the Hindenburg front line.
On the 28th, the Second Army and the Belgians took up the tail at Ypres and crossed the entire battleground of Passchendaele, where the British had fought for 3 bloody months in 1917 in one day. And on that day, too, the Fourth Army, with Americans fighting beside the Australians, joined in to the south. In obstinate rearguards and heroic groups, parts of the German army continued to battle on by virtue of soldierly instinct and tradition. But other parts of it, chalked on the railway wagons that took them to the front, slaughter cattle for Wilhelm and Sons. Hindenburg wrote,
What terrible demands were made in these few weeks on the physical strength and moral resolution of the officers and men of all the staffs and formations. The only order issued in many cases was simply, hold out to the last, hold out. What a renunciation after so many glorious days of brilliant victories. I was faced with the question, the worst of all questions, when must the end be?
The end of slaughter, the end of lunatic damage, the end of hate. The end must be now, at once. But how could it be achieved? Victors and defeated alike met the problem with bewildered stares. War is easy to declare, but peace in 1918 was an elusive prize.